just go down. Yeah.
So, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you, my friend?
Not bad. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to do something about my. I would like to let some people know what Canadians really know about Cuba and our historical relationship, like
Right. Yeah.
between Canada and Cuba, and how it's related uh, with the Cuban actual dictatorship.
Right.
Um, so basically, this it's gonna. That's gonna be the line that is gonna go in the we're gonna follow in this
Yeah.
interview.
Yeah. 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 No, it's no problem. I mean, I know a bit. I don't know a ton. I'll be really honest. I know some stuff happened in the '70s, and beyond that, I'm a little rusty on my Canadian-Cuban relations.
So what I'm thinking, I'm gonna make you a few questions.
Yeah.
You you can answer us. Feel free to say whatever comes to your mind. So yeah, that's gonna be basically it. So what
Good.
I would
Yeah.
like to start asking you when I say Cuba, what comes to your mind?
Oh. Um. I mean, I think there's a mix, really. I mean, obviously, I think the biggest one is Fidel, right? The Fidel Castro. That's he's the picture of what everybody sort of thinks of, right? Um, and lots of people from Canada go to Cuba on vacations, so people would, lots of people think about that. For me, I think, like, you think of a place like Havana, where all the images of, sort of these old cars, and it kind of looks all, kind of cool and old fashioned and stuff. But then, I also think of how the people have been treated terribly for generations, and like, just um how everything goes through the Castros, and whoever's leading the country now. I can't remember the guy's name, but um you know if it's if it comes into Cuba, they're getting their cut, and they're getting rich off the back of the people. So that's you know pretty much what I know, to be honest.
Okay. Well, I can tell that idea or the picture that most of the people, or in this case Canadians, knows about Cuba is what the dictatorship sell to their Canadian because they are the target because they want the most tourists to go to Cuba, but they never
Yeah.
show the real Cuba. That's why
No.
they try to keep them inside the hotels.
Yep.
Um, uh, But in these days, I don't know if you have heard some news related with Canadian tourists in in Cuba recently.
No.
Well, the most recent was I can tell I have the name over here somewhere. And actually, I double check this information because I like to give a, a Crystal Jardine.
Right.
You can look after her on Facebook later. She was in Cuba. She was attacked on the beach. Actually,
Yeah.
was in this case was for other Canadian tourists. But the thing is, uh, after the attack, she tried to contact the police, and as always, police just appear hours later, and she was suffering terrible pain. Uh, Due to this attack.
Yeah.
Was terrible. And not only this, a 16 years old girl was uh, was victim of the kind of sexual attack, but in this case was for a Cuban worker in that hotel.
Hmm.
Um, Again, they always try to keep that image that they sell to the world and try
Yeah.
to hide this information from the world. But of course, the parent of this girl tried to make this let the people know that this is happening in Cuba. I know that happened a lot of time, mainly because in Cuba they have the idea that the tourists are one way to escape from Cuba. So they try
Yeah,
not they don't really care about the age or nothing. They just uh, see you as a visa, as a passport. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. No,
there's no excuse for that. But
I've definitely heard of situations like that where the Cuban police kind of brush it off, or it's no big deal, and whereas it's and then everything kind of gets suppressed until the family gets back to Canada, and then you know it hits the papers or something like that, and then it hits the papers, it gets the news cycle going for a couple of days, and then it's gone, right? It just is. It's just the
yeah,
nature of modern news, right? but but yeah, I think what I mean, current Cuba, I mean, I've also know more about that, because of what you've told mom and dad, and and stories about what's going on there, and and then recently, was it a hurricane that went through and wiped out your power grid, and like what was left of the power grid pretty much got toasted,
yeah,
but destroyed in that. So I mean, I definitely know that the tourist industry puts this great image on Cuba as being this great place and beautiful and whatever, but it doesn't take much to scratch the surface, and you're seeing a pretty repressive situation where people are just you know exploited for everything that they've got.
yeah. We are actually uh tied by hand with all that has to do with expression, free expression, because it's crazy because every day they are making up a new law to repress more the people.
Yeah,
Right, actually, right now, if you say something in the through the social media or uh, loud out or
yeah,
whatever way, they can send you to jail just for say the truth. Even just for say that you're hungry. Actually, if you well, it's sad that you don't really follow this situation and you don't know Spanish. But last month, a mother of three little kids went to jail just for go to the street and scream that she's hungry. Their kids are hungry also. Um, Actually, when the police came to take her, most of the people around, it was kind of it's a spontaneous protest because they were trying to protect her from the police because that it doesn't make any sense that you take somebody else just for ask for food for your
yeah,
kids. So
yeah,
that's was kind of a big deal in Cuba. That was in a small town called Rio Cauto. Um, but the funny thing about that, every time in Cuba there is a protest like that or anywhere, they know people don't have food or medicine or nothing. So what they do is they try to the first thing they take down the internet. So
yeah,
nobody will see what's really happening. So the next thing is they sell all their forces, the police and the military, um, and try to shut down the protests with preparation, the force. It's yeah, many people get hurt. The thing,
yeah,
but because they know that people are in a terrible need, the next thing they do is they send food, um, but only for a day, and music, and try to make like a party. But I think it's more like in Rome in the ancient days, like circus and bread. You know that policy?
Yeah.
Okay,
Breads and circuses. Yeah. Throw the party, give them the food, see if you can buy them off for a little while longer. And yeah.
yeah, yeah. They just want to keep the people entertained in what is not important. So they kind of think in the what is really important, which is freedom. And the end of that regime, the communist regime that has been hurting the people for 65 years, and it's crazy how a regime can last for that long. Um, Nobody do nothing about it. Uh,
Well, it's it's hard. I'm sure. I mean, to trying to get sort of a sustained resistance when you've got nothing. Like you've got nothing to fight back against the military. You've got nothing to fight back against the police. You've got nothing to to support you. You can't fight on an empty stomach. You can't like all of these things they play in. They as long as they keep them poor and keep them broken, you know but at some point, people are going to look at each other and say, we got nothing left to lose,
yeah,
right? And just
that's what I think. Actually, I've been thinking a lot about it. Many people are disagree with me and some other guys about the Hans Burton law about Cuba, the embargo.
yeah,
Uh, um, what the dictatorship regime in Cuba do? They blame all the situation in Cuba. They blame the embargo. They say, well, we have nothing because we have an embargo. We cannot buy things. We cannot have access to anything. So it's United States fault. So everything, all the bad situation in Cuba is United States fault. But they all have private jets, yachts, uh, all kinds of luxury. In the past day when Fidel Castro was alive, he was really aware of the information that people know about the Castro's family. So nobody knew what was really happening. So people was blind about that. But in these last years, they don't even care. They just show up on social media with all their luxuries. Um, while at the same time, the people is dying of because they don't have food or nothing. And it's
yeah,
crazy. But the thing is I try to think about it you're thinking of myself, the way I leave the country. When I took the decision to leave the country in a small boat, uh, go to the Gulf of Mexico, I could, I could die. But when I took that decision was because I have nothing less.
yeah,
Uh, so I say, well, I have nothing to fight for. I have nothing. I have no hope here. I have nothing. So I rather uh, trying to find freedom. Risk my life in the sea, try to find freedom that die slowly here. In a place where I like
yeah,
to compare with the hell.
yeah,
So yes, I think at some point when people realize that they are living a living hell without hope and without nothing, they're gonna say, well, now we have nothing to lose, so. Or we fight back the best way we can, or we are gonna die anyway. So
yeah,
freedom is worthy. It's a worthy thing to fight for. So that's my thinking about that.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I know that. I mean, Canada has, I think, from what I understand, kind of limited relations with Cuba. I mean, they allow like they've got there's enough of a relationship that people can go there for holidays and stuff. And I don't know beyond that. I really don't know. I think there's a Canadian embassy there, but um, uh, well, I know there's a Canadian embassy there because there was some sort of a noise pollution. They were like tormented by some sort of low frequency noise that just gave everybody like splitting headaches and stuff like that. It was bad, but um, I don't. So I but I don't know. Beyond that, sort of what. where Canada fits in. I mean, there's not probably not a whole lot of point in sending a lot of aid down there because it would just get scooped by the Castros anyway, or whoever's in power. I don't know if the Castros are still in
His
power, but
his name is Diaz-Canel, but everybody calls him Singao, but his name is Diaz-Canel.
okay.
Uh, well, I can tell. I was working in the tourism business in a travel agency. Um, at that time, Canada was like uh, the first source of uh, uh, tourist people coming to Cuba. But well, the tourism in Cuba is really bad. I was like ashamed with the with my customer because you know the service you're gonna give them is gonna be terrible, but you still have to sell and make a living. But I try to be the most honest as possible because I it's my face, it's not their face, so I try to
Yeah.
be. But I think most of people know now that the tourism in Cuba, even if it's cheap, which is and the truth is not cheap. It's not cheaper than go to Miami, which is the same weather, or go to Dominican Republic, which is the same weather. Cuba have a bad service and higher prices, so I don't really know why people went
Yeah.
there.
I'm not I have zero desire to go. And even before I met you, um, I had zero desire to go to Cuba. I knew enough to know that the whole tourism industry was just a mask on what was really going on,
Yeah,
and how badly they treat their people. Um, I mean, Mexico and the Dominican. I mean, people are poor there, but at least they've got some rights. They've got,
yeah,
you know, they do have some vote. They do, that some freedoms that way. Um, and But yeah, I really have zero desire to go to Cuba. I'm not putting a penny into that country if I can afford it, if I can avoid it, and I can, so I won't.
yeah. I want to ask you a question. I don't know if you know about it. As you know, or I don't know if you remember, I my hometown is called Moa. It's a mining town.
Right, right,
For I think over 30 years, they has been in a kind of partnership with this Canadian company called Cherry International.
right.
Um, what I don't know, or what I try to understand is, I know the Canadian government is like environmentally friendly, or try to be as much environmentally friendly. Um, and you have the democracy and you have rights and freedom. What I don't understand is why this company has been for so long supporting and somehow funding financially the Cuban dictatorship.
Hmm.
Even if it's just business, because people say business is business, but even though you have to have principles and
Hmm.
you're hurting people. Um, Most of people in my hometown suffer cancer lung or some other disease related with the terrible environmental situation in Moa. So I don't know if this is something you know about this relationship
I don't know
or at
about
least
that
what do you think
exact
about that?
like I don't know anything about that exact
Yeah,
location, but I do know that Canadian mining companies have a terrible reputation in South and Central America. Terrible reputation for treating for playing along with whatever you know government lines their pockets the most. And I mean, I think that's not going to be unique to Canada. Like I think pretty much any company,
yeah, yeah,
that right, it just happens to be that it's owned by Canadian, based in Canada. But you there that to me is one of the failures of, um, almost a failure of the capitalist society, where all that matters is return to shareholders.
yeah,
It doesn't, like, how they get their money doesn't matter. And and that's exploiting people who can easily be exploited, like places in Cuba and in parts of Brazil and in parts of other parts of South America, where Canadian mining companies and probably Canada has a fairly negative reputation because of those actions. And I would love to see the Canadian government crack down on that, but I don't think there's the will to see that happen, because all of that's happening in another country outside of Canada's jurisdiction.
yeah, yeah,
We can't really prosecute that. We can't really say anything. Well, you're doing this wrong. I mean, you can say it, but there's really there's no reason for that company to change their ways, if they're unless their shareholders tell them to. Their primary shareholders. And if the primary shareholders are getting their pockets lined quite nicely, they don't really they most of those people who are so filthy rich, they don't really care whether or not few people get crushed in the process. Some do. Some do. Like, I'm not going to blanket. I'm not going to make that wide, sweeping
yeah.
statement that everybody who's a shareholder in that mining company, doesn't give a rat's patootie about the people in your community. There's going to be some that do, but the majority don't.
Yeah. Um, I'm not gonna lie. They at some point the cherry company tried to pay to their Cuban workers the same as they pay to their Canadian workers.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, that's
But
good.
that would be great. But again, the Cuban regime, they say, well, this is gonna make a crazy difference between the normal Cubans, just let's call it that way, and
Yeah,
there. So we are not gonna allow that. So you better
yeah,
pay us all the money, and we will share equally. But the equally that
yeah,
they want is make everybody equally poor.
yeah,
So, but even though
yeah,
more because they are one of the I think right now it's like the main source of uh dollars for the regime. They have like a special treatment, so they get paid a little bit more, but a little bit more is just like $30 a month instead of 20 or $15 a month that the rest of the Cuban.
yeah.
Uh, they are
And
happy
now,
with that.
I would think that there's very little in the way of um, safety requirements for their people there, because I mean, you can't enforce Canadian safety law down there. And
No,
they probably, the Cuban government is probably going to say, yeah, no, don't bother with that. You don't have to do anything like that. And but it would be nice to say that, okay, well, we'll pay you, you know what the government will let us pay you, but we're going to protect you while you're down there. We'll make sure you've got the right, masks and other things like that to help keep you safe. But I guess that doesn't happen. Hey.
well, yeah, I think that would be great if at least they pay them like a decent amount of money to for make a living, but
Yeah,
that's it's not gonna happen. At least under the Cuban actual
yeah.
regime. So
Well, and if they try to do it, and then they got then it's quite possible that the government could just say, okay, you don't get to run this anymore, see you later, we're taking over. And they'll sell it to another company who will exploit the people just as badly, if not worse, right? So
yeah,
it's almost, you know so
actually
it sounds
that
terrible. It sounds terrible,
yeah,
but somebody's going to make the money down there, so it might as well be whatever the company, that company, right? Like,
yeah.
it sounds terrible, but that's just kind of how the
But you know what? The funny thing is, Cuban regime is like a double-edged blade or something like that. Companies like your in the international, some other companies, foreign companies. You probably don't hear about it. Yesterday, the Cuban regime told to all the foreign companies that they cannot take the money that they have in Cuba out of Cuba. So they just expropriate all their funds. That was yesterday.
wow.
It's a really fresh news. So
So
I want
so
to
all
see
those
what they're gonna
companies
say
that have
about
been
it.
making money. So all of the profits that they make in Cuba have to stay in Cuba and goes to
Have
the Cuban
yeah,
government.
yeah. They cannot take
Wow,
any of those funds out. So I would love to see what they're gonna say about it because they just did it. They don't care what foreign companies think about it. They are like, this is my country. I do what I want, and I don't care what you think about it.
interesting. I wonder how long foreign businesses are going to stick around for that.
Actually, that's I don't know if you know. Well, you probably don't know a lot about Cuban history, but in 1959, when Castro took the power, he did it exactly the same. He expropriated all the companies.
Yeah,
At that point, they were American companies, but he just expropriated all the companies and
yeah.
stole
Just took them
everything from
all over,
them.
right?
It's
Just took
so
them all over.
yeah.
Yeah,
So they are just doing the same.
yeah.
So I would like to see what they're gonna say,
I
what's gonna
don't
happen
I
now.
don't know why a foreign country where a business like really any business would go into a country that has a history of expropriating businesses like that. I
Yeah,
just don't get it. I don't get it.
yeah. If I were a businessman, I would never put any of my uh not even a penny in a country like that because I don't know.
No,
Okay, today we are good, but if tomorrow they just change their mind, I will lose everything. It's not a good investment
no,
at all.
no, 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 not at all.
Okay. Well, I don't want to make you lose most of your time. Just for the end, I would like to ask you if you have something to say to the Cuban people, if you have a message for the Cuban people, what could you say?
Oh,
But might be hard, but
it, boy, I don't know what a middle class guy in Canada can really say to the average Cuban. Other, there's a lot of us who know what's going on down there and wish we could do more um, to try to help, but like let me see if I can think this through a little bit here. Um, I think
just think that is a
something
country
like this,
without
something
democracy
like
and
this is
without
that
free speech.
yeah, you you matter. The people of Cuba matter. Um, your your voices matter. Um, I think the I would love to see that that beautiful country you know turned back to the people, um, and the corruption like that's there be gone. Um, I think, and I think most Canadians would probably stand with me on that. Like, I'm not saying anything that would be too radical for most Canadians there. Um, you know, we we wish it were different for you. We really do. And you know, I can't even say hang in there because like I don't even know what it's like to be there. Like I can't. But just know that that they matter. Like your voices matter.
Yeah. Well, it's not hard to see how it's down there. It's just make an idea. Actually, I would like to someday send all the let's say I know in Canada some people sympathize with the regime. I would like to send all those people to Cuba with only $20 in their pockets and tell, well, you have to live a month with that. No, no, with nothing else. So
Yeah.
let me know in a month.
I don't think there's as many people in Canada who sympathize with the Cuban regime as is portrayed. I really don't. I you know I think there's some people who have a very um, unrealistic view of what Cuba's like. I think they see Havana and they see the resorts, and
Yeah.
that's what they see, right? I think, so if that's what they see, then that's what they see as real, right? So, I think, but I really don't believe that most Canadians um, support what's going on down there. There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah.
There
And
are
we
there some?
appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Are there going to be some? Absolutely, there are. But the overwhelming majority would not at all.
Okay. And we appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
Well, good. Thank you so much.
All right, my friend.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for the interview and for giving me the
You betcha.
opportunity. So
Absolutely, man.
I would like to end just saying a phrase. You can try if you feel. In Cuba, the people we are fighting for Cuban freedom, we say patria y vida.
Patria Avila.
Yeah, that's is the phrase we use because that's we want patria, which is homeland. Vida is life.
Oh yes. Yeah.
So patria y vida.
Patria Avila.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
man.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care, my
Thank you.
friend. See you later.
Take care.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.